If you had told me a year ago that my 8-year-old son would be the one teaching me about honesty, I would have laughed. Not because I thought he was a liar, he's a good kid, always has been, but because, like most parents, I assumed honesty was something you just taught your kids. You know, the usual way. Don't lie, or you'll get in trouble. Tell the truth, and you won't be punished. Maybe you've said those words yourself. Maybe you've even believed them. But what if I told you there's a new way, one that doesn't just get your kids to tell the truth, but actually makes them want to be honest? And what if I told you it started with a single story, told at the dinner table, that changed everything for my family? Let me back up. It was a Tuesday night, the kind where everyone's tired and the only thing on the menu is leftover spaghetti. My wife, Priya, was scrolling through her phone, half listening to our son, Arav, as he recounted his day at school. I was thinking about work, about bills, about the million things that crowd a parent's mind. And then Arav said something that made us both freeze. "I got a gold star today," he announced, grinning, "for helping Mrs. Sharma clean up after art class." Now, Arav is a lot of things: creative, energetic, sometimes a little too clever for his own good, but neat. Not so much? Priya and I exchanged a look. "That's great, buddy," I said, trying to sound enthusiastic. "What did you do to help?" He hesitated, just for a second, but in that moment, I saw it. The flicker of uncertainty, the quick glance at his mother, the way his fingers twisted the napkin in his lap. I picked up the paintbrushes, and the water cups, and the paper towels. It was a good story. Too good. Priya raised an eyebrow. "Did Mrs. Sharma say anything to you?" Arav nodded, a little too quickly. "She said I was the best helper in the class." Now, here's the thing. I wanted to believe him. I really did. But something didn't add up. Arav hates cleaning up. He's the kid who leaves a trail of Legos from the living room to the kitchen. And Mrs. Sharma, she's been teaching for 20 years. She doesn't hand out gold stars for nothing. So I did what any parent would do. I let it go, for the moment. But later that night, after Arav was in bed, I turned to Priya. "Do you think he was telling the truth?" She sighed. "I don't know. But if he wasn't, what do we do? Punish him? Take away his screen time? He's just a kid." That's when it hit me. We'd been going about this all wrong. We'd been treating honesty like a rule, not a value. Like something you do to avoid getting in trouble, not something you do because it's right. The next day, I tried something different. Instead of lecturing Arav about telling the truth, I told him a story. Not just any story. A story from my own childhood. One I'd never shared before. "When I was your age," I began, "I broke my dad's favorite mug, the one with the cricket team logo. I was so scared he'd be angry that I hid the pieces in the trash and pretended nothing happened. But every time I saw him drinking tea, I felt terrible. I couldn't enjoy anything, because I was always worried he'd find out. Finally, I told him the truth. I thought he'd yell at me, but you know what he did? He hugged me. He said he was proud of me for being honest, even though I made a mistake. And I felt so much better after that." Arav listened, wide-eyed. "Did he really forgive you?" "He did," I said, "because he cared more about me telling the truth than about the mug." For the first time, I saw something shift in Arav's face. Not fear, not guilt, but understanding. Empathy. He didn't say anything right away, but that night, as I tucked him into bed, he whispered, "Dad, I didn't really help Mrs. Sharma. I just wanted you to be proud of me." I hugged him, just like my dad had hugged me. "I'm proud of you for telling the truth," I said. "That's what matters most." That was the moment everything changed. Not just for Arav, but for our whole family. Because once you realize that honesty isn't about avoiding punishment, but about building trust, everything else falls into place. But here's where it gets interesting. I started sharing this story with other parents, at school drop-off, at birthday parties, even in the WhatsApp group for our apartment building. And the response was overwhelming. "My daughter does the same thing," one mom said. "She lies about brushing her teeth, about finishing her homework. I never know what to do." Another dad admitted, "I caught my son sneaking cookies, and I yelled at him. Now he just hides things better." We were all struggling with the same problem. We wanted our kids to be honest, but we were teaching them to be afraid of the truth. We were punishing the lie instead of rewarding the courage it takes to tell the truth. That's when I started researching. I read articles, watched TED Talks, even called up a child psychologist friend. And what I learned blew my mind. Studies show that kids are more likely to be honest when they feel safe, when they know they won't be shamed or punished for making mistakes. In fact, the more we threaten or scold them, the better they get at lying. It's not about being soft. It's about being smart, about creating an environment where honesty is celebrated, not feared, where mistakes are seen as opportunities to learn, not reasons to hide. So I decided to try an experiment. For 1 week, I made a promise to Arav. If you tell me the truth, no matter what, I won't get angry. We'll talk about it, and we'll figure it out together. But you have to be honest, even if it's hard. The results were nothing short of miraculous. By the third day of our honesty experiment, I noticed a subtle but powerful shift in Arav's behavior. It wasn't just that he was telling the truth more often, it was the way he told it. There was less hesitation, less fear in his eyes. He started coming to me with small confessions. "Dad, I forgot to feed the fish this morning." Or, "I accidentally spilled juice on the carpet and tried to clean it up, but it still smells." Each time I kept my promise. No anger, no lectures, just a calm conversation about what happened and how we could fix it together. The real test came on Friday. Arav had a big math test that week, and he'd been anxious about it for days. When he came home, he looked nervous. I asked him how it went, and he mumbled, "Okay, I guess." Later that evening, as we were getting ready for bed, he handed me a crumpled test paper. He'd scored lower than usual, and I could see the disappointment on his face. "I didn't want to show you," he admitted, "because I thought you'd be mad." I took a deep breath, remembering my promise. "Thank you for being honest with me," I said. "I know it's not easy to share something you're not proud of, but I'm glad you did. Now we can work on it together." We sat down and looked at the test, figuring out where he struggled and making a plan to practice those problems over the weekend. The relief on his face was unmistakable. For the first time, he saw that honesty didn't lead to punishment. It led to support. That weekend, I shared our experiment with Priya. She was skeptical at first. "Aren't we just letting him off the hook?" she asked. "What if he starts thinking there are no consequences for his actions?" It was a fair question, and one I'd wrestled with myself. But as we talked, I realized something important. Consequences don't have to mean punishment. They can mean learning, growth, and responsibility. When Arav told the truth about his mistakes, we didn't ignore them. We addressed them together. The difference was, he wasn't afraid to come to us anymore. Word started to spread among our friends. At a birthday party that Sunday, another parent pulled me aside. "I heard about your honesty week," she said. "Does it really work?" I told her about Arav's test, about the fish, about the juice on the carpet. She listened, nodding. "My son lies about everything," she confessed. "Even little things like whether he washed his hands. I always end up yelling, and then he just gets sneakier." That's when it hit me. We're all stuck in the same cycle. Our kids lie. We get angry. They get better at hiding things. And the trust between us erodes a little more each time. But what if we broke the cycle? What if, instead of reacting with anger, we responded with understanding? What if we made honesty the safest choice, not the scariest? I started reading more about the science behind honesty. One study from the University of Toronto found that children as young as 3 are more likely to tell the truth when they believe their parents will respond with kindness and support rather than punishment. Another study showed that kids who are praised for their honesty, even when they admit to doing something wrong, are more likely to develop a strong moral compass as they grow older. It's not about letting kids get away with bad behavior. It's about teaching them that honesty is a strength, not a weakness, that telling the truth takes courage, and that courage should be celebrated. The next week, Priya decided to try the experiment with Arav's little sister, Mira. She's 5, and already a master of the innocent face. That Monday, Mira came home from preschool with a mysterious stain on her dress. When Priya asked what happened, Mira looked down and mumbled, "Nothing." Normally, Priya would have pressed her, maybe even scolded her for not being careful. But this time she knelt down and said, "It's okay, Mira. You can tell me the truth. I won't be mad." Mira hesitated, then whispered, "I spilled paint during art time. I tried to clean it, but it got worse." Priya hugged her. "Thank you for telling me. Next time, let's ask your teacher for help, okay?" Mira nodded, relieved. It was a small moment, but it mattered. Over the next few weeks, we saw more and more of these moments. Arav and Mira started coming to us with their mistakes, their worries, even their fears. The atmosphere in our home changed. There was less tension, less secrecy, more laughter, more trust. But it wasn't just our family. Other parents started noticing the difference. At a school event, Arav's teacher pulled me aside. "He's been more open in class," she said. "He admits when he doesn't understand something instead of pretending he knows the answer. It's made a big difference in his learning." That's when I realized honesty isn't just about telling the truth. It's about creating a space where our kids feel safe to be themselves, mistakes and all. It's about building a foundation of trust that will last a lifetime. As word of our little honesty experiment spread, something unexpected happened. Parents from our building, from Arav's class, even from Priya's office, started reaching out. Some were curious, others skeptical, but all of them were desperate for a better way. One evening, I found myself sitting in our living room with 3 other dads, mugs of chai in hand, swapping stories about the creative ways our kids had tried to cover up their mischief. There was laughter, of course. One dad's son had blamed the family dog for a missing remote. Another's daughter had insisted the tooth fairy took her homework. But beneath the humor was a shared frustration. We all wanted our kids to be honest, but none of us had been taught how to make honesty feel safe. That night, I realized this wasn't just about my family. It was about all of us. We'd inherited a script from our own parents. Tell the truth, and you won't get in trouble. But the truth is, most of us did get in trouble, even when we confessed. The lesson we learned wasn't that honesty is good. It was that honesty is risky. And so, we passed that fear down to our kids, without even realizing it. I decided to take things a step further. I started a small group, just a handful of parents at first, where we could talk openly about our struggles and share what was working. We called it the Honesty Circle. Each week we'd meet in someone's living room, sometimes with our kids, sometimes just the adults. We'd share stories, not just about our children, but about ourselves. The times we'd lied as kids, the times we'd been caught, the times we'd wished someone had just listened instead of punishing us. One mom, Anjali, told a story that stuck with me. When she was 10, she broke her mother's favorite vase. She was so terrified of the consequences that she hid the pieces in her backpack for days, until the smell of old flowers gave her away. Her mother's reaction: a week without TV, no dessert, and a lecture about responsibility. I never told her the truth about anything after that, Anjali admitted. It just wasn't worth it. We all nodded. We'd been there. But now, as parents ourselves, we wanted to do better. The Honesty Circle became a safe space, not just for our kids, but for us. We practiced what we preached. When one of us made a mistake, forgot to pick up a child from practice, lost our temper, missed a school event, we owned up to it in front of our kids. I'm sorry I messed up. I should have been there. Thank you for telling me how you feel. The kids watched us, and slowly they started to mirror our behavior. One evening, Arav came to me with a confession. He'd accidentally broken his sister's favorite toy and tried to fix it with tape, hoping she wouldn't notice. I was scared she'd be mad, he said, but I remembered what you said about honesty. We sat down together, and I helped him write a note to Mira, apologizing and offering to help her pick out a new toy. Mira was upset, of course, but she forgave him. More importantly, she trusted him. The ripple effect was real. Other parents in the group reported similar changes. Kids who used to hide their mistakes started coming forward. Siblings who used to blame each other began working together to solve problems. Even the teachers at school noticed a difference. Your group is changing the culture, one teacher told me. The kids are more open, more willing to admit when they need help. But it wasn't always easy. There were setbacks. One week, Arav lied about finishing his homework. When I found out, I felt that old urge to punish him, to take away his screen time or cancel his playdate. But I remembered our promise. Instead of getting angry, I asked him why he lied. I was scared you'd be disappointed, he said. That hit me hard. I realized that my reaction mattered more than the lie itself. So we talked about it, made a plan to catch up on his work, and I told him I was proud of him for telling the truth in the end. The more we practiced, the easier it became. Honesty stopped being a rule and started being a habit. Our home felt lighter, more peaceful. There was less yelling, less tension. More importantly, there was more trust. One night, as I was tucking Arav into bed, he asked me, "Dad, do you ever lie?" The question caught me off guard. I thought about all the little white lies I'd told. "We'll see," when I meant no, or "I'm fine," when I wasn't. I realized that if I wanted my kids to be honest, I had to be honest with them too, so I told him the truth. Sometimes I do, I admitted. But I'm trying to do better. Just like you. Arav smiled. Maybe we can help each other. That's when I knew we were on the right path. Honesty wasn't just something I was teaching my kids, it was something we were learning together.